Hey, what's going on? This is FORY, myspace.com/FORY. Also on Facebook, and you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com for FORY1380. This is just another video, and this video is not a rap video, it's just a video. I'm going to talk a little louder and a little faster because I have to read through a paper to tell you guys and demonstrate to you how brilliant I am. This is a paper that I wrote April 26th of 2002 for a philosophy course for Professor Flynn. I wrote it, it's a draft, and it was the final paper. I'm going to read it to you for you dumb, idiotic monkeys out there who keep posting up right and wrong defined. Get it? I'm going to run through it and read it at a paced length. I do everything perfectly. No one can argue against this paper. It's in my bag and I always keep it with me. The other part of the paper basically proves the fact that I'm God. It kept me from being medicated in a psychiatric unit while I slept. Anyway, here we go. Right and wrong defined by DAYRON FORY. It has been thought and reflected upon for many centuries that right and wrong are synchronous, that they are binary oppositions, that they cannot exist without wrong, and vice versa. Great philosophers, scholars, sociologists, anthropologists, and experts, and other fine arts have argued over what is right and wrong. Some believe that right and wrong are set standards, universal rights would never make anything opposite from them wrong. The opponents of this position contend that right and wrong are defined by set standards of morality that cannot be undone at any point in time. They contend that what is right and wrong remains fixed, irrespective of a contrary or supporting belief by any one individual. Yet there are still others that argue that right and wrong is culturally defined and that there are no such standards of right and wrong. They hold that right and wrong are mere attributes of the cultivation of a specific behavior within a given society through experience. Footnote, Benedict R. Morality is Relative, in Louis Pojam, ed. Philosophy, The Quest for Truth, 4th edition, Wordsworth Publicity Company, 1999, page 370. In contrast to both of these last 2 points, there are those that believe that what is right and wrong is defined by the individual. Whatever the individual does is up to the individual to deem it wrong or right or wrong. However, the individual only defines what is right inasmuch as he, the individual, can, quote, will it to become a universal law, unquote, end quote. Okay. Anything that is adverse to this notion or contradicts itself in principle is wrong. Footnote number 2. Kant, E. The moral, quote unquote, the moral law, in Louis Pojam, The Philosophy, The Quest for Truth, Wordsworth Publishing Company, 1999, page 418. Okay. Now, I find that all these arguments agree on one fact, merely that there is such a thing as right and wrong. This contention presupposing that there is a reality as it is explained by Descartes, and our conception of reality is as we think it is, mainly that I, quote unquote, exist, and everything derived from or by it also exists. 3. Descartes, Meditations on First Philosophy, in Louis Pojam, The Philosophy, Quest for Truth, 4th edition, Wordsworth Company, 1999, page 129. Okay, I haven't turned the page. Only then can we begin to analyze right and wrong. In any case, let us go forth believing that our reality is as we think it is, and everything is as we perceive it to be. First, we must find out what we mean by right and wrong, and who, how arise to these definitions. Secondly, we must analyze the origin of what is right and wrong. We will then look at when it is that right and wrong are defined. We will end with examples of this proposition. Remember the word when. Time. That's a side note from me. What we mean by right and wrong. A new start, new chapter. Let us first look at what we mean by right and wrong. Right can generally be defined as whatever action or thought is conducive to the society. Wrong is judged as generally what is not conducive. We have to ask ourselves who or what makes up the society. Society, no doubt, is a conglomeration of individuals who have similar ideals and agreed as to what is right and wrong. The conglomeration of individuals comes to agree on standards of what is right and wrong to promote their livelihood. In this principle, each individual is inclined to agree with every other individual within the established society out of, quote, open quote, fear of death and the desire for commodious living, end quote. The individual makes up the society that has set rules and standards enforced by some entity who the individuals empower. That's basically the government. That's a side note right now. They do so because each individual realizes that if they do not agree, they will succumb to their quote-unquote inclinations and resort to violence to achieve their ends, thereby destroying each other. This is why the society is set up. Now, fourth footnote, Hobbes, Leviathan, and Louis Pajam, Philosophy of the Quest for Truth, edition Wadsworth Company, page 465. We have to note that Hobbes proposes that right justice and wrong injustice only exists in after the entity has been empowered to enforce the laws and not before. Okay, this is the way in which most of us understand and construe the question of what is right and wrong. Let us so believe that what is right is beneficial and what is wrong is unbeneficial. Yet we have to analyze what it is exactly that is considered as beneficial or unbeneficial, and more importantly, to whom or what. The society is made up by the individuals. The individuals are the ones who, through and by reason, make up the agreed upon rules. The notion of what is right and wrong is therefore first considered by the individual. The individual reasons and considers what is beneficial or unbeneficial wrong to his being before agreeing to give up his rights. He is the initial determiner of what is right and wrong. However, the individual can only determine this inasmuch as it applies to his own being. The individual, being the I, quote unquote, cannot control the actions of other rational beings he perceives in his reality, if they are to have, quote unquote, free will. Also, those beings which he perceives cannot have control over the individual if he is to also have, quote unquote, free will. This is why we say the individual can only judge right and wrong as far as his own being. This leads us to the conclusion that the ultimate meaning of right and wrong is exactly the following. What is right and wrong is whatever the individual deems beneficial or unbeneficial only to his being at that particular point in time, and cannot be construed further lest we chance on misconception of other rational beings' thoughts. The origin of the notion of right and wrong. As we have already seen, the individual arrives at the notion of what is right and wrong by considering exactly what is beneficial or unbeneficial to his being. Supposing that the individual is a rational being, the individual will quote, reason to arrive at the answer of what is either beneficial or unbeneficial to his being. Just as Kant suggests, reason gives guidance to the good will, which to Kant is the only thing that has value in itself. So surely reason must be, if not more valuable, then at least just as valuable as the good will, quote unquote. What is it that we call reason? Kant seems to think that reason is a deterrent, derailing individuals from the path of self-promotion, happiness, and of desired objectives. He argues that reason was not meant for the promotion of the self, but rather to give the individual a far nobler end, quote unquote, which he argues is the good will. We have to, however, for our purposes, break down the meaning of quote unquote reason. Descartes' Encyclopedia tells us the definition of reason is 1. An explanation or justification of something, 2. A motive or a cause of acting in a particular way, and 3. The ability to think logically and use rational faculties. 5. See HTTP dictionary.msn.com/find/entry ASAP. You could find it in the dictionary. Whether we think of it in any other of the previous ways or as a combination of all, reason is the cause of or logically rational understanding of something. If we compare reason to thinking, most of us would agree that if a being cannot reason, then it cannot think. This would coincide with Descartes' theory in that If a being, the I, quote unquote, does not reason think,